Let's see when it says record. All right, it says we're recording. So welcome to the Critterosity Art Hero Monthly DIY Mystery Ornament of the Month. It's a lot to say. If you're tuning in and you're seeing this, yes, you can watch this workshop, see what I do. But if you would like to join, I put in the top right corner the critterosity.subly.me, and that is how you can sign up for monthly rewards that not only reward you, but they do reward me and keep me in business doing what I love. And these workshops are every month. Basically, this is August rewards that got shipped at the end of September is how it always works. It goes out a month later. And then by the time I can sit down and do the workshop, it might roll into the following month fairly early. This month has just been really busy for me. And I thought, well, we're getting closer to Halloween. This is more of a kind of spoopy vibe. And I wanted to make sure I kind of saved it for later in the month. So my art heroes probably got these end of September, early October. And then I just kind of was like, let's hold off until it gets a little more towards the Halloween time to do this one. But other ones I try to knock out the first week or second week of the new month. So if you do have any interest, you can check out all the different rewards at critterosity.subly.me. Sign up for anything you like. It's reoccurring monthly, but in order to actually participate, you can watch, but to participate and get these, I ship these out so anyone watching this can watch live or rewatch it. They can watch it and then attempt this, and they can also do whatever they want. The pieces are in their home, and I'm just making suggestions on how I kind of had this in my vision of what I wanted to do. But you can find my socials, Critterosity is there, but Critterosity as well. It's Critterosity across the board. So thank you for tuning in. And I'm going to be teaching this workshop pretty fast. And the whole reason is one, people have paid for this workshop. So I'm specifically ignoring comments, even though the commenting might be on. I can always come back and write you guys in the comments. But also they can pause and rewind as many times as they want and see how long I've talked at the beginning. For those that are wondering, why is this a public live thing and I can't join in? You might not be able to do this limited edition mystery ornament, but you can sign up for future ones so you stop missing out. But anyway, thank you so much for coming to my TED Talk, and let's get started. So this is the first month. I'm pretty sure maybe there's been other months I send a second piece. This is the first month we've had a DIY ornament have this many pieces. And they kind of get all the pieces in the mail, and they're probably like, what was does she want me to put an arm up here? Where does the arm go? But that's the fun of this, is I'm kind of trying to think outside the box now that I have a laser printer, thanks to not only Greg, my boyfriend who bought this for us, but also my art heroes, because they're keeping it funded so we can keep making cool products. And I was like, why not push the envelope now? So from here on out, I am hoping to be very creative with the ornaments. And what do I mean by ornaments? You guys got these with the ornament. If you didn't, let me know, but you should have plenty of those left over every month that you've probably used and not used. And then you can just put this and glue it on wherever you want at the end, hang a string through it, put it in your window, decorate for Halloween, whatever you want to do. Now you can do like a little trace to kind of figure out what you want to do. This is a little mask that we're going to be putting on our character. This is a Squatch ghost. For anyone that doesn't know me, I make little Yetis like in the corner, and little Squatches are my like little original spin-off characters. And I'm going to decorate it the way I want to, but I always give you guys, well, maybe not always, but for the most part, I give you a bunch of different ideas. I'll draw different eyes. And I always say, one, you can always watch the video and see my process and then go back and do it, because it's kind of like muscle memory. Even when you watch somebody make something, you then know the steps when you come back to it. And number two, you can think about planning it out a little better. Number three is to use your camera, take photos of it in different times that we're starting the next process, because once you cover the marker with paint, you may forget, wait, what did it just look like? So it's good to have reference photos to go back to. So I kind of gave you guys some ideas. I think I'm going to go with something similar to this, kind of a pumpkin mask, almost like a skeleton pumpkin mask is what I'm going for. These are arms, but you're going to be shocked with what I'm going to do. Well, not shocked, but you will be surprised when you see what I'm going to do with these. And also, I sent out in my email to all of my Art Hero subscribers that if they wanted to do exactly what I was doing, I gave them a link on Amazon to buy the tiniest ever. The tiniest magnets. I'm just trying to get these in my hand. These are, look how little they are. So these magnets are going to come into play for this piece, and I'm really excited about it because I've never really done anything like this. I've seen other people use magnets in their laser cuts, and this allows us to maybe, if my art heroes that are in this workshop say, hey, I'd like to buy another mask, now that I have a laser printer, I can make you more masks. And guess what you can do? You can use your magnets to snap it on. You can take it off. Maybe you buy some glasses for this character and you want to snap it on and snap it off. Just remember, wherever the magnets are, the ones that are glued to the face when we're done, that's where everything you add over the top have to stay. So if you're thinking right now, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Maybe you do a pumpkin head. Maybe you do a Dia de los Muertos head. Maybe you do a like a skeleton face. Maybe you do a masquerade mask. I don't know. But this is the shape that I have for this particular Squatch ghost. So once you put the magnets down, if you do get other ones, you'll have to place it in the same spot as you do on each mask. That way they snap into place and you can still see the eyes. So let's get started with the drawing. What I did is I kind of drew a line straight across, a line up and down. So think of a plus sign, and that's how you're going to kind of find out where your character's face is. Let me zoom in a little there. Okay, so I was using my little mask and placing it where I'd like the mask to sit. I didn't go too high and cover the hair. I didn't go too low and it looks weird. I kind of tried to find a nice little middle ground where we see the top of the head still, a little bit of each of the horns. This horn's going to be showing over the top. This horn's kind of hidden behind as if they're showing a 3/4 view. Something that I told a sip and paint workshop that I did the other day. Thank you so much for popping on and saying how spooky cute. I told them that whenever something is turning its head, one side is going to be larger than the other. So with the cartooning vibe, we're making this horn the bigger horn, and this horn is going to kind of be turning away. So that's why this one looks a little bit wonky, all right, and also cartoon. So then a bigger eye hole over here and a smaller eye hole over here, and that way you can make one eye a little bit bigger than the other. Not insane, okay? Just a little bit. All right, so once you know where you want to place your mask, I want you to trace with a pencil, and it's good to rotate your wrist like a compass, because here's the thing. If you stay in one spot, it's going to kind of stick away from the edge, and your pencil's going to actually measure it a little too close to the eye. So you want to get as close to the edge as possible. I'm living on the edge. Okay. I thought that was funny, but clearly I'm alone here. All right, and then you're going to take that off. Now, that is not the eyeballs. That is just where the mask lands. So we know everything in the middle we can work with the eyes. This is where I was telling you, you can kind of trace and use this over and over again to kind of figure out, okay, how do I want the eyes to look? If I just trace it really fast, kind of get an idea. Let's say you could do a circle or an oval and put a little pupil floating in the center of it, and then maybe a little dot, because again, it's supposed to be spooky, so a little different than what I would normally do. You could have closed eyes, like a U shape. You could add lashes to any of these that you want to have a little lash, okay? You could do some little lashes. Let's say you want kind of an angled eye. You could do an angled eye. Now remember, when the mask is off, the face has to look in pretty decent proportions. So really think about what you want to do. And then you can do the eye that I'm kind of doing, which is kind of a cute little, his eyes are kind of going in a little bit. Very cutesy, very demure. No, I'm just joking. Okay, watch that TikTok obviously too many times. Okay, so plan it out first. Figure out what you want to do before you just jump in and say that's, you know, That's what it is. You can even trace this on something and sketch it all out first. I kind of had an idea, so I knew when I was designing it what I wanted. Now, the eyes, where they split, just know your nose can go about right here without anything being seen with the mask over it, okay? So for this one, I'm going to do a little line, and I'm going to do my little zigzag. It's almost like an E, like a bubble letter E. I do 1, 2, 3. 3 little jagged pieces. Okay, so it looks like an E for Eva. There we go. And then, again, this is where about the mask is. So you can do kind of a loop. You could do a little upside down heart. That's kind of a fun little quick way to do a skeleton nose. You could do something more boxy, like a triangle. You could do a circle, like a little clown nose. Maybe you want to make like an it mask or something. Just have fun with it and be creative and make it cater to you if you don't want to do what I'm doing. So I'm going to make my eyes first. I'm just kind of sketching some oval-y, little bit oval-y eyes. And then I'm putting nice big circles in. And that way they're a little bit, it's not supposed to be completely like cross-eyed, but in enough that it looks more adorable and cute. And then I'm adding a little bit of a lash line at the top. Now, if you go too long with your pencil, guess what happens? That's going to happen. If you don't want that, I highly suggest don't even draw that hard. I'm drawing it harder so that you guys can actually see it, because I can see it really well, but then when you guys watch on TV, sometimes you can't tell. Sorry about that. That was my super glue. All right. So then you put your mask back over it and make sure everything's still hidden. You can see the eyes. And then what I'm going to want to do is color those negative spaces between the pupil, or the eyes and the oval shape. I'm going to make those blacked out, but I don't need to draw that. I'm going to be painting it. And then there's the mouth. And when the mask comes off of your character, are they a happy mouth? Are they happy for Halloween? Are they just smiling to keep it simple? Is the mouth going to be like, oh no? Is it just like an oval with a little tongue and then you can color in the background? So these are all things you can think about how you want the face to be. I think mine's going to be happy. So I'm drawing kind of like a little jelly bean mouth. Okay, this is a little bit of a jelly bean, a little tongue, which is a rainbow. And then I'm going to draw a couple teeth inside. There we go. So it's a little messy just because I was showing you guys what can happen if you draw with a pencil too hard or too long. Now you got to choose what you want your horns to look like. I'm going to round the first one because it's overlapping, where this one is behind. So we're just making that line come straight down. You could do a curly Q kind of design. You could do more of line work for the little horns. Or you can just leave it as is and paint it so it's ghostly like. So this is an actual little ghost Squatch, okay? And then he's putting on his little pumpkin mask to be extra cutesy. All right. So I'm going to do probably a loop-de-loop horn. I think that'll be a little playful, a little fun, not too scary. And then this is the bottom part where the head kind of floats over his body. It's just the design that I've decided to do when I make these little ghost Squatches. So I'm doing different size shapes across. Now, normally when I make my ghost Squatch brooches, they're 2 pieces. This is 1 piece, and then I have the head cut from a second piece, and I layer it over the top so it gives a second dimension. But our second dimension is actually going to be our mask. We don't want it to stick out too far from the table right now. But yeah, could you imagine if it was this one and then another one? And maybe that's cool. Maybe you like that. But I wanted to keep it to where the mask was the main thing that was going to give it dimension. And so the painting is what's going to give it another dimension because we're using shading and highlights. So it's going to kind of look like the head's floating off of the body a little bit, just a little bit. So now we grab any kind of permanent marker. And I always tell people a permanent marker is great, like a Sharpie, as long as it's a fine tip. You really don't want the little thicker ones because over time they're going to get more bulbous. And as you're starting to draw, it's going to really blow out those lines. I'm so glad that you need one. This one is going to be up for auction as it always is on my Pop Shop. So if you're not on the Pop Shop Live app, you're missing out on all the extra good goods. Sometimes I do it on Instagram. Sometimes I don't. And this one is going to be a Pop Shop auction because, listen, at the end of the day, Pop Shop works better for me than Instagram live sales. So that is where I want to reward people for the fun extra things from time to time. As you can see, you're probably thinking, but Eva, you drew so many lines. Isn't it supposed to be perfect? No, it's never supposed to be perfect. Okay. We're not robots here. But you can always draw a plus sign in the eyes to try to get it even, like make the pie even on each corner. So if that helps you kind of figure out where it's wonky, that could just be a fun little tip. We're going to paint over it, so it's totally fine. Again, maybe you chose one of the other eyes. Maybe all you want is 2 little dot eyes. That would be really cute, right? This is why I love making so many brooches or ornaments when I print them, because I'm like, or we could change the eyes, or we could change the mouth. And the more you change, a new character always comes up, even if you keep everything else the same but change the eyes. So think about that. Think about difficulty. Do you want this to be a really difficult project? Are you more advanced? You know, maybe you can take it to another level. But I'm going to keep it fairly simple so that we can get through this kind of quick. I'm not going to draw the lash line over and over with my marker because why? I'm going to paint over it anyway. And the more water and paint, if you have really watery paint, it's going to start to smear it even if it's permanent marker. This is a waterproof marker and it still can reactivate and smear. So now I'm going to avoid these lines. I'm not going to draw the outline. This is why I tell people maybe watch the video first and then go back, because you might have already started drawing the eyes, and it's totally fine if you did because paint is very forgiving. But if you want to like make sure it's a nice clean look, we can kind of skip that part. So I want to use my mask. I don't want to draw it freehand like I did the eyes. I'm going to actually use my mask for this part, and I want to line it up pretty good with those eyes. And then I'm going to trace, and remember what I said, use the whole wrist and push against the edge. If you can't do that, maybe stop and turn it and then go a different angle. But using your whole wrist to push it right up to the edge will get the most perfect line of where the mask is. So just letting you guys know, that is a fun tip. Now I can go back to freehand. I can see where the eyes are. So now I'm going to draw my little kind of pointy-y, less bubbly, more of a point. And I say less bubbly because this one was more of a bloop, 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 like a real bubble-y. I'm going to draw my little jelly bean mouth. 1, 2 for the teeth. That's just how I want to draw it. You can draw it any way you like. And then the tongue. Okay, and then from here, we can do some loop-de-loops. You could even do little curly cues if you want. I'm keeping it kind of simple. You could add a little belly button if you want, like a little X. That'd be kind of funny. And then I'm going to curve this in and close this one straight as if this is covering it. That again is going to cause some dimension. It's going to look like this side is closer to us than that side. This eye's a little bit bigger than that eye, not by much. And then some curly cues if you really need the reminder. If you are like, I know what I'm going to do in the horns, you don't even have to draw that. His little eyebrows I'm going to make, and I'm going to add a little curly cue up here for his hair. Okay, so that's the ghost. Done with that. I'm going to move that off the side. Good news, I'm not going to do anything to the arms. I'm just going to be painting those a solid color. And now you get to choose your own design for the mask. I'm going to do the upside down heart. I'm going to draw a couple lines coming up, and I'm going to make a little smile on my mask. And then I always like kind of saggy little eye lines as if they're tired. I don't know why, but I love it. And I'm going to make it more into like a pumpkin mask. So I'm going to draw a few lines to show like where the orange and red lines will be. If you don't like my design, do your own thing. Okay. So now I'm going to come back over. Some of this pencil is going to start to gray out and be really, really, really messy. So sometimes it takes me a couple layers of paint just to let it go. Something to note if you're new with DIY ornaments or you're considering doing this in the future as part of the rewards you want to support. let things dry and move to something else. The great part is we have 3 things we can paint over here while this is drying. While this is drying, we can go back over here. The more you move around and the more patient you are, the easier and faster it's gonna go. If you keep staying in one spot, it's just gonna muddy, it's gonna get all mushy, it's not gonna dry. This is an MDF board, so it's basically a pressed board, and it's really great on the edges. On the top, it feels like paper, but just know it is porous and it still needs time to dry. It doesn't dry instantly. It needs a little time. I'm gonna be using Holbein acrylic wash, which I get at Art Supply Warehouse. They are online and they're also in Westminster, California. So if you do live close by, I do suggest buying them from there. They are like the most affordable. These are top of the line paints for like $6 to $12 depending on the color. Most of the colors are between like $6 and $7. So getting a starter kit of just your basic primary colors and mixing for a while is a great thing to do until you add more colors, because it's really hard to mix something to get this color. So when I got my first kit, I bought things I knew would be a little tough to figure out how to mix my own colors. And now I've just, whenever one runs out, I maybe go buy 2 more. And that way I pick out 2 new colors while I replenish the one I'm missing. We're also going to be using, and you can use acrylic paint from Walmart, from Michael's, I don't care where you go. Basic acrylic paint is fine. And I use acrylic white, which I'm just realizing right now. I moved off my table. Give me 1 second. Okay, I'm using an acrylic white. This is like your most basic deco art. They have so many different cheapo ones that you can get at Michael's Arts and Crafts. This is great for white because it's really bold. And the newest thing I've really gone into is Posca markers. And these are fabulous. I've used so many paint markers in my life and been miserable. They dry out too fast. The flow isn't good on them. The Posca markers from time to time they are now starting to like get to the point where I'm constantly have to getting the color out of them. But for the most part, I'm obsessed, and they do a lot of intricate work. These, I can't remember the name, but if you ever want to buy these and you are part of my mystery DIY, I will give you the information. If you're not part of the mystery DIY and you say, hey, what was that paint you were using? Well, join the DIY ornament reward and I will share that info with you. This one, I mean, if you can go on Art Supply and find out what these are, great. I always forget the name. But I take them out of the case right away. The little case you can keep or you can let go. It's just a piece of plastic, so I usually let it go. But I have these to add extra embellishment. And then the final thing is finding just some glitter that is fine cut, or you can have a little bit, chunkier glitter. It's up to you. I'm going to be using that as well. So those are all of my major materials I'm using to get my pieces to stay together. I love a good Gorilla Glue. You can do the XL, or you can do the super glue 10-second drying. They are different. This one will hold really, really, really well. This one will hold really well, and then it dries really fast, so you don't have to wait forever for it to dry. So up to you what you want to grab. I've got both of those. And then, of course, the magnets that I told people, if you want it to look like mine, you'll want the magnets. If you don't really need the magnets, you're just going to glue the mask on, then you don't need the magnets at all. All right, let's get started. Your brushes should always range. We're using Princeton brushes. If you don't have Princeton brushes, again, Art Supply Warehouse. I am not sponsored by them. I don't get anything from them other than all my own supplies I buy. But every now and then when you're shopping, they'll give you a $10 coupon code when you spend a certain amount. It's really been awesome. And Princeton brushes are the most affordable, and I absolutely love these. So I do have some other brushes here and there that I'll use that maybe somebody donated to me, like Low Cornell. But for the most part, it's all Princeton brushes. The first thing I'm going to do is go to the thing that needs the most coverage so that it can dry while I work on the other things. And that's going to be this little ghosty. You want to work dark to light. So I've decided to go with kind of bluish teal tones for my ghost. And I'm going to start with turquoise blue. If you don't have this brand, guess what? Just find something similar to this if you want to make it look like mine, or maybe you're going with more greens. Use like a nice foresty green, something very pretty for the background. I am just going to the edges with this. That's all I'm doing. I'm following anywhere there's an edge. I'm treating this like an edge because we drew that straight line. On this side, I'm not going to treat that like the edge down the middle. that's kind of connected. But I am going to just lightly graze it. And then I'm going to add all of this because where our little boopity boop, whatever that is, our little bumps there are separating the little top of the head. It's almost like having a little neck, if you will. And then his little body, I'm just going to follow kind of right to here. And this is a deerfoot brush. And with the deerfoot brush, it's really cool because they're like little pouncers. But if you need to do circles, they're really good at that too. So just saying, really nice. Now, when you get your water and you start cleaning your brush, make sure you're tapping your brush at the bottom of the water. And then when you go to dry off, I love Viva towels because they last me forever. And so I like them because they're thicker and you can let them dry out. And then you can use them again. Now, because this is going to be a lot of blues, I'm not too worried about getting that color out, but at least I can start to dry it off like that. And the less water you have on your brush for these projects you do with me, the better. I do a lot of dry brushing, and it's really what it says. It's dry brushing. It's a very dry brush, but of course I'm going to reuse the one I just had. So it's a little bit damp, but not very much. Next is ice green. It's like a nice teal. And I just take it right from the tube and then I kind of splash it around while it's really strong. And as I start to see it starting to kind of fade away, that's when I go back and start blending it. Don't worry if you go on the eyes. This is why I said to take photos of your process, each stage you go through. I'm adding mostly teal just to this one. This one that's closer has a little bit of that darker teal. And I'm just, look how much went around in just that little bit. You don't need much. I always say it's easier to add than to take away. So to add more paint, now I can just go really slow. Another thing I do is instead of just scooping it up, I'll kind of put it on the top. That's how I get all these paint boogers stuck to the top, as I call them. So it's, for me, I'd rather do this than have a palette with all my colors squeezed out. And then I'm like, oh no, it's all dried out. It's nothing I can do. If it's just coming right out of the tube and I'm grabbing only what I need, it seems to last me so much longer. Some of these colors can last me 6 months to 8 months pretty well. And ones I don't use very often can last me a year to a year and a half. So again, that $6 to $7 investment is totally worth it for better product. I always try to talk people into it. Once you use acrylic wash and you know people that do, they're like, oh my gosh, I will never go back to just acrylic paint ever again. It's just a very nice consistency. So now what I'm doing is just lightly brushing on in the areas that my little nose is, the eyes where the mask is gonna go. I'm not worried if I cover it up. And the lighter it is in those areas, usually when it dries, you can start to see it. And acrylic wash dries really fast if you're not using a ton of water. Right now, it's like pretty much just the brush. There's no real water. And acrylic wash is really creamy when it comes out, so it really doesn't need a lot of water to it. If you're just starting out with like DIY projects with me, you don't have to go spend a ton of money. If you plan on sticking around, it really does go faster if you just purchase the stuff I'm using, because then you can follow it to a T and be like, I have that color, easy, just follow along. And any color I'm using, let's say you wanted to make your ghost a light purple color. Completely fine. Grab a dark purple, a medium purple, and a light purple, and you're going to do the same process that I'm teaching. Just because I chose to go this route does not mean you have to. Next, I'm going to try out a horizon blue and just try to add a little bit of this to kind of mix it up. So I'm going to dab a little of this here and there. No real plan of attack. I'm just kind of picking some different spots to add it just so that it adds some points of interest. Shows how it can be 2 different types of blues and kind of warm up the picture a little bit there, or the ornament. Even though it's a cool tone, I say that it warms it up. I don't know. It just starts to kind of bring it all together. And then the last color I'm going to do for right now, I'm going to switch my brush to something smaller, still a deerfoot brush. Like I said, you can never have enough brushes, even if they're the same design. So this is another deerfoot. It's just a smaller size. Every single size is great, and they last me a really long time. If this doesn't come out easily, I have a little paint booger, so I'm going to take that one off. If it doesn't come out easily, take a little edge of the scissors. You might see me do that at some point today, and you can kind of scrape the edges to get it to open up again. So now I'm just pouncing. using more of a pouncing, and I'm going right down the middle. And then as it comes off of the brush, I don't have to worry about tons of it on there. I can start to kind of blend. So no water is on this brush. I'm just blending it out. And you do not need a lot of it, especially if you're using acrylic wash. Watch this. I'm barely squeezing any of it out. Just barely, and just taking a little bit. And now I'm going to pounce in the horn, but I'm going to go right down the middle of the horn. And while it's still damp, I'm just going to move on. And then when this brush starts to dry out, like I start to notice there's not much more on it, that's when you're good to blend. That way you don't smear it everywhere. It kind of stays in the spots you put it. And I'm just kind of softening it by going back over it. If you notice, you're starting to see the wood shape come through again. Remember, I'm moving really fast because you can pause and rewind and rewatch a million times to get it right. If I was teaching this, you know, and you were sitting right in the room with me, no recording, no way to go back, I'd be going a lot slower. But I'm just showing you how I pile it on while it's still damp. And then I blend it out. If it's just not drying, it's feeling really gummy, like it's starting to do that, then guess what? I move to the next thing. Let that dry. I can always come back and do it again later. All right, I chose a pumpkin mask, dark to light. So we're going to use crimson first. And that is just a really dark kind of burgundy red. And again, what did I do with the last one? I did the edges. I'm going to do the same thing, just all around the edges. Because this is creating a natural shadow, so I don't have to go back and try to figure out the shadow. You can always go back and do a shadow, but this takes care of a lot of it. So I can just move fairly quick. And now I'm adding like the under eyes. Remember I said it was going to be a little tired looking. And maybe a little under the nose for a shadow. Just right there. I'll eventually do like a glowing pumpkin nose, but for now that's what I'm going to do there. And while I've got my brush, I went from red, I'm going to an orange now. So they're still kind of in the same family. It's not going to be like a blue to a red and make it purple. The orange and the red are just going to blend into a darker orange, like a burnt orange. So this is why you just have to let things dry, let them do their thing. You can make this stippled and have texture, or you can pull and make it smooth, like what we would think a little pumpkin would be like. In a cartoon or something, you know, you'd have the nice smooth lines. So I'm going to start to pull my little pumpkin lines down. And I'm just, again, no water, just a dry brush. If you're using acrylic paint, it may not work the same way. So try these methods. If you need a little water, it doesn't hurt to add a little bit of water. But when I do, I barely touch the water. Like I just go bink and then I wipe it off. A little water goes a long way, just like paint. And I'm not done with the pumpkin when I do this. I'm going to keep adding to it. But you can see that that shadow is showing up as little creases in the pumpkin mask. It's kind of creating that little negative space there where it would be kind of rounded for our pumpkin. So did it do it everywhere perfectly? No, but I'm going to come back and work on it some more. But you can't keep going because it's all muddy and sticky, and so you want to move to your next thing. Let those dry. By the time we make it back here, look, it's already dried. It just needs a minute. This stuff dries really fast. I'm going to grab another brush, and look what it is, another deerfoot brush. I have so many of them. I do not throw them away. I just might need a new one. But I keep all of my old ones because when one is dirty, I can just grab a new one instead of having to clean every single brush every 5 seconds. All right. So where these hands are going to go, these hands, they can either go, I actually took one that got a little bit burnt from my laser printer in the weird way. I'm going to put this one here. You can put the arms as if he's holding them like this because you know what they are? They're fake arms. My Squatch ghosts don't really have arms. That's the whole kind of funny part of it. So the mask includes arms for this ghost. And that's kind of the deal is when the mask comes off with our magnets, it really is just a Squatch ghost as like a ghost body with no arms. But when it's on, it's as if he's purchased a costume that has little fake arms on it. So we're going to make it look like his arms. You can go either upward where he's holding his mask this way, or you can go downward. You can put the arms higher and make it look like he's holding it up here. So it's really up to you. So design it the way you want. If they're downward, like I said, I cut my laser printer or cut with my laser printer a little funky. They could be going upward this way, upward this way. I think I'm going to do mine like this. And I'm going to glue the hands there. So when I take it off with the magnet, the little arms come off with it too. And he'll be like, surprise. So now I'm going to do pretty much what I did with that. And the reason it's all muddied looking is that's a lot of my pencil from drawing really hard. And I like to show you guys what happens, because if I say you draw really light with your pencil, I'm going to draw hard for mine, just to show you guys like where the line work is. It also shows you the mistakes or why you don't do that. So sometimes I like to do that as a way to show you what not to do, or what it would look like if you did that. It just means I have to go over it again a little better. Once it's dry, the pencil lines will be blocked in. All right, so I'm just bringing this around town. I'm adding a little bit more. And as this is getting muddied, guess what happens? It starts just blending the colors together, and we want the different layers. So I have to let it dry, and I move back, and I just kind of work in a circle on those. When I used to give out ornaments where it's just one, you kind of have to be patient, move to different areas as you work. In this case, now that they're going to start being more 3D, when you join this ornament workshop, there's going to be more things to paint at a time that you're going to assemble, like a little puzzle. So I do highly suggest getting some super glue, because you're definitely going to need it now for upcoming ornament projects. Okay, so I was using, remember, my lightest green, and this one is, I believe, pale mint, which is funny because I'm like, not impalement, especially funny during the horror season time, okay? So we've got this, and watch this. Now I'm going to do it again, what I showed you earlier, and you're going to see how it starts to stand out more because the paint is finally dry underneath it. It's not just going to blend right in. It will kind of stay the color I gave it. That's more what we wanted for this ghost, because we want the ghost to look like it's a little kind of see-through, little sheer. So there we go. We can go back as many times as we need. We just don't want to do it too soon. We want it to dry so it doesn't start ripping up the little paper coating that this ornament has at the top. Because it will, if you keep doing this kind of movement over and over, it'll start to pill, and not peel, but pill. And that just means it starts to roll the paper up in a ball, and you're going to start to see a lot of little chunks of paper in your painting. So be really careful how you approach this and what you do. And I've kind of lost where my little loop-de-loops are, but that's okay. I'm just making some little bumps here and there with this new one. And I want to blend it out because the ghost has to look, you know, very see-through. If it's really blotchy and really textured, it's not really going to look like a ghost. We want it to be kind of smooth like that. So I'm just adding this pale mint to add a little highlight here and there to the character and smoothing it out, not super rough. And once we paint the face and everything, it's going to start to help a lot. But right now we're just kind of smoothing it around. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on the orange for this one. Get the arms one more time, and then we're going to start on the face. Okay, for this one, since it's got a lot of texture, it's going to be a little pumpkin. This one, I'm using a grainer brush, and with the grainer, it's already made like this, so it does a lot of the work for me. It doesn't mean it's a cheat. It means it's a smart, okay? Smart to know your tools and what will help you make the job a little easier. I don't have to sit here and draw single lines everywhere. Now I can go over it with this coral red, and it's just going to add a little pop of color to it. All right, not much, just a little something, and it's just giving it more texture to look kind of like a pumpkin mask. All right, and then we're going to need a little bit of a yellow. So I have Naples yellow instead of using a bright, bold yellow, which I might. I just didn't put it into my possibilities of colors. I'm just kind of loading it right onto the brush and adding a little bit of this kind of off yellow color. And now you can kind of see, whoa, you can kind of see what that just did. It added all these different textures to it. So again, knowing your tools is key. So I don't know if I'm done with that yet, per se, like to start adding all my details to it. I might want to use a bright yellow just to really pull a brighter color in. So I'm going to bring my yellow over, and I'm not going to use it just yet because I think it is kind of turning to a soft orange color. And I also think this orange got lost in the red, so I can always use this first. If it's not enough, I can bring the yellow into it. Okay, and now we're going to this one, and I'm going to use a highlight of that pale mint color. And again, just kind of not a lot of water, just letting it kind of sit on there fairly dry. If maybe your brush was used and you have a lot of water on it, just wipe it off. Just wipe it off. You don't even need to add water to it. Just kind of wipe it down and then start to work on those again. Okay. So that gave me like a little, oops, everything's just sticking to everything, especially when they're small. Okay. So now I'm just going to smooth that out, and I can add more highlights to it as we go. We're going to bring this one back. Okay, already dry. Fantastic. I'm going to use a round brush. The round brushes, just like any other brush, comes in all different sizes. I'm going to use, I think I'm going to use black. I think I'm going to really go for a darker tone, and I'm going to paint where the mask goes, or the part that the mask is showing. Sorry. I'm going to try to avoid the actual eyeballs as best I can. If you can't see, you can always go over it by placing it right where you want it and then tracing it into the mask. I mean, I am using black, so technically the inside of the mask is not going to be affected, but you might get black on the side of it where you painted any kind of color that you were working on. So just be really careful, take your time, and you can kind of trace it and then move it, and then go, oh, okay, I can see where the lines are supposed to be now. This one I ran out just a little, and if you keep setting it back down, just know you might keep moving the paint around, so be really careful where you go. All right. So I have an idea of where my eyeballs are for the character, and I can get it somewhat close. I just want this to kind of dry first. But I don't want it to stay all sloppy like that. I'm going to end up going around those black lines and kind of cleaning them up. So let's do that. Sorry, a little itch there. Okay. So now I'm going to go very slow and clean it up. This will be under the mask, so if I decide to go a little further out than where the mask sits, it is going to kind of close it up nicely. I even see one little spot that pilled, so I'm just kind of removing that. And a little bit of water, the tiniest bit of water will help the paint move around a little easier. And when I say a little bit of water, just enough to get it moving. Okay, that looks good to moi. And I totally forgot to mention that if you've ever not seen my lives, I'm not playing music in the background, so you can turn on whatever inspires you in the background. You don't have to fight with the music that I'm playing in a video while trying to get instructions. So I have sacrificed my need of having music so that you guys can have music, or a TV show, or maybe you want to watch a spooky movie. Whatever it is that floats your boat. All right, and I'm just touching up a little spot where I got a little bit of black, so I'm kind of going reverse painting and just closing these up a bit. Because I want him to be cute when the mask comes off. Right now it looks kind of weird, but I always say wait till the end. It will all come together. Don't stress out. If something doesn't work, you just go over it with paint when it's dry and work from there. Okay, eventually I will go over it again with a paintbrush right around the edges and something smaller, not something all, you know, kind of flattens and frays out. It'll be more pointy. All right, we're going to go back to the little mask, and I'm going to start first with my orange and see if that helps, and if it doesn't, I'm going to use some yellow. But now that it's dry, my orange will stay truer to the color it is and not blend with the color underneath it. So now, there we go. I'm going to add some of this orange. Oops, oops, oops. There we go. And I still think it could use a little bit of yellow. Okay, so we're going to use just regular old yellow. And be really careful if it is clogged, because it will just shoot out of the tube if you mess with it too much and you're thinking like, oh, it's really stuck, and then all of a sudden this glob right here will just shoot all the paint out of the side. So just be really careful. There are times I think like, oh, it's not going to do that. So clear it out first with like scissors, and then you're good. You can also turn this on its side. So instead of just keeping it flat the whole time, I'm turning it here at the side. Okay, I feel better about this pumpkin now. It's got more colors, more tones. It's looking more like a pumpkin. So that's cool. Again, this will eventually lay over the top and can come off. So however much you want to do. I'm going to go ahead and start on the nose, because the nose is just going to be a black upside down heart basically for the little kind of skeleton inspired jack-o'-lantern nose. So I'm using a really small brush. If you dip into water, make sure the water that maybe if the water's up to here, it starts to run down if you're not careful. So I always kind of wipe off any excess that might be coming down. A little bit of water will be helpful when you're doing like little details like this. Otherwise it will be really globby. And when we're doing the background, it's great. Like the body and all that, the faster we can get that paint down, the better. But when you're doing details, a tiny bit of water will get it to flow again, and then you're going to get a nice clean line. So there we go. I'm dipping in a little bit of water, getting it to move. If it's too much water, add a little bit more paint. Okay, and then I'm going to do a little smile across, and then I'm going to draw some little lines from the indentation right there. Okay, and then I said I was going to add a little bit of little kind of droops coming down. I think I'll go over them with red so it doesn't blend in with the eyes. It's pretty good. Okay. So for the most part, that's pretty good. I'm just going to need a little bit of red, dark red, to do the details for the lines and stuff. Speaking of dark red, I'm going to move on because we want to go to the driest areas. If this is still drying, let it dry. You've got other things to work on and distract you until it's ready. So again, with that small round brush, I'm using my crimson red, and I'm going to outline the inside of the mouth, avoid the teeth, avoid the tongue, and then fill it in. I think I have an opossum outside my door. They've been visiting, but I hear them chomping on something outside my door. All right, now we're gonna draw a straight line for the nose I'm doing. And then sharp lines, 3 of them, close it up. And if you need help, make it like a crown. You could do a crown if that helps you mentally, like, oh, how does she do that? You could make it an E shape like I showed you guys earlier. So whatever helps you make that. It's 3 points. Oh, it's Greg. And then I round it. And then this side, I close up my little lines for the mouth. That's not the end of the mouth, but that is just for now what we're going to finish with for that part. Now I'm going to add a little bit more to the body. And I'm using that pale mint color. And I'm going to add some to the top. And as it's running out, that's when I start to blend. So you're going to start to feel the difference when it's really dry and realize, oh my gosh, had I just been patient, I could do it even better later. But it does take, testing it. And if it's not dry yet, then you'll know. And when it's dry, that's when you go back in and add all the goodness to it all. Okay, so we're adding these. And then I'm just blending, blending, blending. And that way it just has a softer look to it. And a little bit on this side. And blending. Then I'm going to do the bottom. Okay, and let's say your black is still drying or the crimson is still drying, and then you touch your brush into it, and then it's just gonna get all messy. So stay as far away from things that you just painted as possible. And then we're just gonna blend this. Okay, now I can start on the actual eyes and the pupils. So now what I'm gonna do is take, I'm gonna take Misty Green, and I'm going to make my 2 circles that the pupil is going to sit in. So these are the actual eyeballs. And I'm just eyeballing it. Ha ha ha. Ha, puns. Dad jokes. Okay. If you mess up, guess what? You wait for it to dry, and then you can use your black and clean it up. Or if you messed up with the black, you can use the other color to go the other way. Now, the reason I use Misty Blue or Misty Green as the color is it's not pure white. And pure white is going to do what? It's going to add all these beautiful highlights. You can't see white on white. So if you do a white eyeball and then try to add white elements to pop, it won't really show up. So it's better to go dark for the eye to start and then start to bring your colors up. So from there, we're going to use Misty Blues. All right, so Misty Green is all around there. And then Misty Blue, I load up a little bit. This is just another round brush. Again, another kind of old brush that's still working for me. I like all the texture. And I'm going to blend it into that Misty Green color. I'm not worried about the black because I can go back over it. And I'm just kind of blending it in while it's still damp. I don't want Misty Blue to be the darkest color. I want it to actually like kind of blend into the Misty Green and become like a medium tone. And if, you know, you need to go backwards so that the shadow is more at the top, that's like where the eyelid is hanging over, you can start with Misty Green at the bottom and blend it upward. So once that Misty Blue or like a darker blue, you can make a little bit of a Misty Blue by mixing a tiny bit of black with some blue. Your color schemes are going to be different than mine. The teeth are going to be Misty Green. That way when we add like a yellow or white to them, it can pop a little bit better. Just following the teeth. If you messed up, guess what? You wait for it to dry and you take the crimson and go backwards over it. Don't ever feel like, oh no, I can't. The hard part is when you use a really skinny brush, it's going to create a lot of lines in your work. So there's a lot of divots in that piece that I just did there. I can't even think of words. So I'm using like one of my Deerfoot brush to kind of just even it out. And now I'm going to smooth it. Just going to add a little smooth to it. And I feel like I need a little bit more Misty Green, but little teeny strokes like that are going to create like little grooves in your painting. And you're better off using something wider that's going to soften it afterwards. But if it's not working, don't stress out. White then will really add some brightness to this. Like you're going to see it very well. Now I'm going to take a really, really, really fine brush. Again, it's going to create like a divot and a groove in the black. So I want to be really selective of where I lay this down. I'm going to load up some on here. I'm going to bring a little palette over, plasticky piece of paper I use from my postcards I get in. And I'm going to add a little bit of water. I want it to be kind of thinned out. That way, I don't have to worry about it. There's a lot of water running down the brush, so I'm just kind of pulling the water off by rolling the brush. That's how I do it. You can do it on a paper towel. And then I'm just really softly, I'm not pressing down hard. I'm just very softly touching it to the outer part of the eye here. And then once I do that, we should be good. It should be cleaned up pretty nice. But yeah, if you push down, your brush is going to spread out. If you go really soft, you're going to get nice lines. So it's all about brush control. And your brush doesn't know what to do. You've got to control it. So practice pulling towards you. Practice pulling away from you, leaving your wrist up. Placing a pinky down sometimes helps as an anchor to keep your wrist off the table. Sometimes when you're just straight over it, your wrist can't do a lot of things. So it's better to kind of get in a position first and then do that. Or you can even go above it and kind of map it out and then touch down when you think you're ready. Touch down. All right, so don't cover it with your mask when it's drying because it will smudge and you'll mess everything up. So don't do it, don't do it. Okay, The nose, I'm going to use coral red over the crimson. So I'm just going to take this and I'm going to use, look how much that pops. You could do a blue nose. You could do a red nose. I like more of the soft pink tones, but I might bring in some reds too, just so that my tongue and my nose don't look like the same kind of thing. Because now I'm going to add this to my tongue as well. So this one is a little less blended, it's just straight on. Rainbow, fill it in. And my reminder to you guys that you can rewatch this video before you start. You can rewatch this video, rewind it, and don't feel overwhelmed, because once you mess up, let it dry, come back and do it again. If you need just an idea, be really careful not to drop it. You can kind of go, okay, that's cool. I like where the eyes landed. All right, and I didn't go all the way down. I just kind of figured it out from holding it a little bit above there. Now I'm going to start to make some blue line work. And the blue line work is going to be my darker blue, the peacock blue. And this is going to be all those little swirls. And remember when I said touch very softly, barely touch your brush down and pull. Don't go right over it. Just kind of pull towards a certain angle. This is the one I said was going to be a little bit darker. This one, the horn kind of has a bend inward. All right, we're going to do a loop-de-loo. Now, it looks really dark right now, but that's okay. We're going to create a nice little line to do a lighter color on. So again, the more your brush has a little bit of water just to keep it smooth, otherwise it's going to be really dry and it'll kind of drag. You can dip it in the water and go onto your little palette if you need, and just kind of working it in there. Now I'm just adding those little loop-de-loops. I'm going to load up my brush. Okay, and it's all about brush control. You got to practice that over and over. We're going to get some on the eyebrows now. And I kind of make little V shapes on their side. I don't know. And I kind of add a couple extra lines so it doesn't have to look too even. It can just kind of be fun. Oh, there's Craig. Opening up the garage. And then right under the eye, I'm going to add just a little bit of a couple lines. Just like I did on the pumpkin. A little bit for the bottom of the chin. And then I'm going to add the blue into the black. This creates a little bit of a dimension, a little bit of a highlight, adding this peacock blue. And if your black starts to blend in with it, maybe take a break from that and try it again a little bit later. One of my favorite shows is The Ghost and Molly McGee. I think that's what it's called. I started watching that last year and just loved it. And I love the way they did the ghost. So definitely a nod toward the way that one was designed. I really like it. But I've been doing my little Squatch ghost for a long time, so I tried to stay to what they are. And see, I can tell that the mouth is a little too close to the eye. So right here, I have to make that call. And when it's dry enough, you can fix those kind of things. So see, I was just patient. And now I'm going to clean that up a little bit. Okay. And there we go. So it may not be perfect right now. I'll just let that dry and then I can blend things in afterwards. I'll also have my little glitter and my highlights and stuff that are going to be a little distracting. A little bit of water will start to kind of blend it in, but I don't want to do it too much or else the crimson red will start to reactivate too. So I just kind of just lightly go over it. Just a little bit of water and then finish off with the way I was doing. So you kind of follow what you were making earlier. I have an even smaller Deerfoot brush. But see, as you're painting and as I'm painting, we might be doing two completely different designs. You might be perfect and don't need to retouch anything. But I love when I make mistakes. I love it because I'm a human. I don't like to be like, oh, that wasn't supposed to, that wasn't my fault. I'm more like, no, I do it all the time. I make mistakes all the time. So planning it out, knowing what you want, drawing it in, painting well enough you can still see your line work. Great things to avoid what just happened to basically me. But this is how you fix it. You just kind of do what you did earlier. And if you start to drag other colors in that aren't dry yet, then stop right away and just don't touch that. So you'll see that dimension of where I said we've got the highlights and the lowlights that kind of created its own little cast of shadow down there. That was what I was talking about. But if you need to make a little bit darker shadow, you can always water down your paint to like a watercolor consistency, very smooth, and then just drag it underneath and let that dry. So just kind of adding a little bit of a watercolor underneath, and that's okay too. So under this little loop, maybe I want to add a little bit of like a watercolor flare underneath. It's a ghost, so it can have a little bit of a whimsical look to it here. Can watercolor at the bottom of the horns just to do that, but if you keep going you might reactivate the paint, so we just want to do little touches here and there. Whoop whoop like so. And then this little shadow here. Okay, now that my eyes, I believe I can add my pupils now. So now I'm going to add those. I'm just loading up my black to my round brush, pretty small round brush. And I'm going to make my first circle. Now, I'm going to show you how I do it. That's how I do it, and I'm barely touching down. If you need, you can start with a dot, kind of draw a little bit of a line, or do that pie shape around it, and then use that dot and just kind of fill it in. It really depends on what works best for you. But just like the paint, it's better to add more paint to your brush than get a big glob and then you waste it all. It's the same when you're doing circles. Starting small and adding a little bit each time to try to get them to the size you want is better than just drawing them the size you want and then be like, wait, they're too big. Well, it's harder to go backwards, especially with the blend that we did in the background. You'd have to cover your whole eye up again. So I always go small and then make it a little bigger each time I attempt it. If you go too fast or you push down too hard, you're going to mess it up by pressing the brush into it, and the brush is just going to splat, you know? So we don't want that. We don't want that. So I'm going to let that dry for a minute. This one is almost touching the inside of the eye. And so I want this one to come in just a little bit more. All right. But if you just keep going and you don't stop to let it dry and look at it, you're going to end up probably overdoing it and be like, no, didn't want it to look like that. Okay, so there's our little eyes. And then now, since my blue is pretty dry, I'm going to add that black back to this. But I'm not going to go as far down as I did. And I think I'm going to skip on those little tired eye lines just because it is really close to the mouth. So I learned a little lesson there for this painting in particular. And then if you have that blue, you can always make some lash lines over the blue because the blue that we did on the black is kind of separating it. So we can start to see it. It also starts to add that dimension to it, which is really cool. Just kind of bringing black around. And if you need to, you can grab the blue and do it again with the blue. You can even use a very small deerfoot brush if you ever buy one and add the texture with that instead of a line brush. So the little deerfoot brush is like a little pouncer. I'm kind of pouncing off some of the color here, and then I can come back. And that way it adds a little more texture to it than just a round brush that's kind of flat. As always, I will touch this up after the live where I can sit right over it. Right now, the light is shining at an angle that everything looks glossy, and it's actually hard to see where things are. So I need to hold off on all the major details, but I'm giving you guys pretty much what I'm going to be doing. I just need to go back and touch up all those things I told you. All right, I'm going to take white acrylic, and with just a round brush, you can shake up your white acrylic. You can add the bottom of the teeth. Do you see what I'm saying now? If you have something like the misty blue or the green, you can start to add that over it, and it just really pops. It kind of gives it a base so that it can really shine through. And then in my pupils, I'm going to do a little line at the bottom, little line at the bottom, a little dot at the top. All right, and I don't want to do anything to the pupil yet because we just laid that down. I'm going to take another round brush, and I'm just going to take the tiniest bit of water and just blend it a little. Just a little bit before it dries. This is acrylic white. This is not gouache. And see how I'm just kind of adding that highlight into it and just kind of blending. And I'm going to do the same with the teeth. I kind of want to blend it before it dries. That way it doesn't just go one big sharp line. It kind of blends down. If you need a little more white, you can do that too. A little more white. Okay, if you start to notice it's not blending, it's very see-through, you might want to shake up your acrylic a little bit more because it might be a little transparent. I added a little white dot to the eye. The nose. Wow, she knows what she's talking about. Knows what she's talking about. Nose. All right, I'm adding little highlights of white. Just kind of picking spots I think could add a little glow for us. All right, a little bit of white on the horns. A little bit of white on the belly and the little tail. And now that's a lot of work on that one. Let's go ahead and clear our eyes out and look at something else as I lay that right into the paint. Now I'm just going to take red, dark crimson red, and I'm just going to add those last little lines and stuff. I'm going to use a line brush, a very thin line brush. Here we go. Add a teeny bit of water, smallest bit of water to my brush. Make sure it's not running down my brush. That's not crimson red. Here's crimson red. Okay, and now I'm going to add those little kind of eye lines. Hold on. We need the scissors. Where are the scissors? Oh, there they are. Okay, so I take them and I very carefully place them into the paint. That's all yucky. And then I twist until that paint comes out on the sharper edge of the scissors. And those scissors are only used for that. Okay, so I'm just dipping this into the paint. I'm going over my black with crimson red. That way it kind of softens the really dark tone because the nose is really dark. All right, and then I'm going to start to make some lines for the pumpkin head. Okay, and that's good enough for me. I'm happy with that. Okay, we're going to move that one off. I'm going to come back to the arms. I need a little bit more dimension on the arms. So I'm going to wake up this paint that I have right here and use a little bit of water. And now I'm going to start to find the bottom of the fingers. So you have to figure out how he is holding this. And I said I thought it'd be cute if the arms were more like this. So the bottom of the hand is getting a little bit of a shadow. So each finger at the bottom gets a little kind of curl. A little bit of this. If you want to use Posca markers for this, you can. That's why I'm saying the Posca markers are a great addition to my kit because it's allowing me to sometimes draw something in that my brush just does not want to do. And that happens a lot, guys. It's not like I get it right perfectly. A lot of times I'm not liking it. I let it dry. I grab the Posca markers and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's all I needed. I'm going to add a little bit of blue to the nose. Same reason as the eyes. It kind of adds a little highlight into the nose. You knows what I'm saying? All right. Yeah, I said I was going to have him holding this, but I don't want to glue it yet. I want to lay it all out first. Bring this guy back down. Now I want to go around the lips. So I am using my peacock blue and I'm just going to go around the mouth. All the way around. Okay. And if I don't like that color, I can go over it with a different color, but at least I have the darkest tone down. And I can actually touch up around the eyes now with the blue. Whenever something is on my brush, I just keep using it wherever I can, just to not lose any paint that was on there. Okay, so we're starting to see some highlights. Now we're gonna go straight into my acrylic paint that's like brand new. So I load up my paintbrush with no water, just the brush itself, and I'm just gonna put one highlight in the eye, twist it so that my hand lays the exact same way. Sometimes I can keep it there. Sometimes the brush just does not want to go down the second time the right way. Little highlight at the top of the eyes, a little scoop with this one, fix the teeth up. All right, so we're starting to do good there. It's almost done, you guys. We'll add all our little details that we want. Okay, I think I'm gonna go around the eyes with the black again with my tiny, not even a line brush, it's just a really small, what is this? A Princeton #1 round brush. Okay, adding some water to that just to thin it down. Very lightly tracing the outside without pushing down. I want my brush to stay on the point just as good as it can. If I'm pushing down, then it's going to create like a big flop right in it, and it's going to be this really thick line, and I don't want that. I just want it to go very lightly so I'm in control of the brush. And same the other way. Right around that lash line, and then around the edge of the design. And anywhere I mess up, I will just go back and fix it. It's not a big deal. I don't panic about it. I just know I can't do everything perfect, so if I have to go back and clean things up, that's what I'll do. Right here, the pupil is touching the inside of the eye. The other one is not, so I just want to make sure I make those as close to even as possible. Taking my misty blue or misty green, that was misty blue I was just using. I'm using misty green to kind of add a little bit of a highlight, but not white. I'm avoiding white. I'm only using that for highlights. Okay, and then we need some highlight in the eyes, so I'm going to go to my teal blue, wherever it is. It's a great question. I know it's staring me in the face. Always staring me. There it is. Got it. All right, now you can use any color to add a pop of color. You could do brown, purple, green. It doesn't matter. I'm going to stick with my misty blue. It's still in the color that his body is. I'm going to add a little bit of water. It's kind of dry. Just a little bit of water so we get it to lay down nicely. And then when I bring my Posca markers in, you guys can kind of see how those have been helping me. If you don't have them, maybe it will change your mind. I'm going to follow my lines, okay, with my teal blue, the one I just put the highlights in the eyes. I am mixing a little bit of water and teal blue. This is Ice Green is the name of this particular one. And what I'm doing is going over all those really dark lines. And like I said, I'm barely touching the brush down. It's just grazing it and adding a little highlight. That way it doesn't look like dark green everywhere. I want it to be a little bit more bright. Gonna add a little here. Bring some around here. Clean that up a bit. This line's a little bit harsh. I'm gonna get some more here. This side. Maybe a little highlight to the tail in this color. A little highlight over the nose. Okay, now if I use a Posca brush or a Posca marker, it has a whole different color than the ones I'm using. I can add this really cool teal into the eye. Okay, it's a really nice, neat color. I can go over the mouth and get a cleaner look to that paint. Okay, I can add a belly button, right? So that's the Posca marker. It's really neat. You could add cool lines to where the eye is, just to distract from how, you know, it has to be so precise, but it doesn't, you know. You can just kind of mess with that. What else? Now we can add some highlights of, I'll use this one. It's kind of got a greenish tone. I use one of my Deerfoot brushes and I just blend for a second. When these are brand new, they don't look as like brown or muddied. They go on pretty nice. But once they start to get lower, they take more water and more time to apply. So I usually do the same technique. I kind of pounce it first and then I blend before it dries. So I might even switch out brushes here, start where I first had it. That way it really shows up the way you lay it down. It does add a little bit of a darker tone. It kind of makes it look muddied, but when the shine shows up, it's actually like really, really cool. So it's up to you if you want to go after a look like this one. And I'm just adding a little bit to the horns and a little bit down the tail. But yeah, if you pounce, it'll kind of have that texture. So that's why I usually let it dry so I don't move all the line work underneath it if it's really damp. I just kind of go back before it's gone, add a little highlight into this black and blue area. And then I can even tap some over here. How much you add, how much you take away is up to you. Okay. So we have this little ghosty, has this new little shine to it. I don't know how well that shows up for you guys. And then you've got your little mask. Okay, we're almost there. And then we've got the arms. So I'm going to glue my arms onto the side and my magnets need to start to find a place to go. So I'm going to do this and I'm going to show you guys a couple tricks here. No treats. All right. So wherever you want the hands to look like they're coming off of the body, but then the funny part is when you lift the mask up, the arms are going to go with the mask. So I think about right here will be good. All right. So now I'm going to grab and do a little dab here, a little dab here, and hold for a couple seconds. This is why I love the fast drying. It doesn't take that long. If you mess up, you know, you have a couple seconds to kind of move it, but you want to hold. And this is before you spray. If you spray it, I'm not saying it won't stay. It just will be more glossy and slide around. I'd rather have it really dry so that it really sucks up the glue really fast. And then you are able to have your little mask. Look at that. Look at that. Isn't that cute? It almost reminds me of Mandalorian, the symbols. But yeah. Okay. So now we need to find out where to put our magnets if you did decide to go that route. Otherwise, to make this a really easy project, don't do anything with the Squatch's face. Leave it as is, and then and just put the mask and glue it on. These are really strong magnets. Make sure you don't have them near your phone or any kind of device. All right. So what I'm going to do, so I'm going to set them right on top of each other. Okay, so I put two together. I know it's hard to see. Oh, that's three together. Man, they are tiny. For those that need glasses, like me, I should have been wearing my glasses. They really stick together, so I want to make sure it's only two. Okay, so two are stacked. And I want them far enough away because they literally will run across the table. And there's maybe even four on this one. I don't know. And then they give you a little bar, a little metal bar with the kit that I sent people, or the little magnet group I said. And you can just kind of catch them or pick them up with it. It's a nice little bar that's just going to be magnetic and stick to everything. But again, keep your phones completely away from those. All right, so the little trick that I have for you is you're going to turn over the mask. You're going to find 2 points, whether it's here and here. But I say to do the sides so that the magnets sit about right here and they kind of blend in a little bit. Thank you so very much for saying it looks cool. I truly appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you. Really appreciate people stopping by and complimenting. It's actually quite shocking these days when people compliment, huh? We love it. We love it. We're here for it. So I'm going to put glue, just a little tiny dots. The quick drying glue only needs about 5 to 10 minutes to really fully dry. But I don't care. I do a lot just to make sure it's not going anywhere. Whoops, that one went on its side. No. Okay, let me separate those and grab 2 new ones. That way when they dry, they can go back. Just avoid it if it didn't work out the first time and grab something new, because that super glue is unforgiving. That means it does not forgive. When it's done, it's like, nope, you have to throw them away. Okay, try to lay them down carefully. You guys learn from me. This is why I love to make mistakes, so you guys can see. Okay, this way you're not putting them down here and then on the mask. You literally just add 2 little drops of glue and then you set it down and leave it, and that way it stays there. When it's dry and you lift, the bottom one should stay stuck to it. Okay, so once I put these down, the whole workshop is complete, because I need to let it dry for 5 to 10 minutes and I will not be live anymore. So right now, while that's drying on the mask first, I want to give that, don't rush, give it time, let it dry, and then do the other side. I'm probably going to put it on the end, the super glue on like the end of something, and just dab it on the 2, but they are really strong magnets. So I know that they'll stay on really good if you're using the super glue that I use, which is Gorilla. Works really, really, really well. This is just a lot of practice, but these are rewards that my art heroes have signed up for. Anyone can become an art hero, and that's why you take these. And that's why we pay for the workshop, because I'm teaching all the skills, and I'm self-taught, so I believe other people can learn from some of the skills that I've picked up, and then you can always become a master DIY painter at any time. So I'm adding Aleene's tacky glue in just random spots with my Deerfoot brush. I just kind of dip it into the tacky glue, and I have used Aleene's forever and ever and ever. So I just highly suggest it, but it does dry really quick. Put your paintbrush into water as soon as you can, and then I'm just gonna drop this over the top. Now, I don't care if it sticks to anything, still damp, but for the most part, my stuff is pretty much dry, so I don't have to worry about that. Okay, and I'm just gonna tap this off. And then I always use a dry big brush that I've purchased, kind of like the makeup brushes. This one's an actual paintbrush, but these are for basically just wiping off my projects where I don't want the glue to stay, or the glitter to stay. If I feel like it didn't stick, guess what? It means I don't have enough paint on my brush, so I just grab that again and keep going. And then all of this, I end up recycling and putting it into my little glitter container that helps funnel right back into the glitter. So don't worry, there's no glitter being wasted. All right, and so less water, more tacky. I've left this tacky glue out so many times with the lid off, it probably is just drying really quick. All right, let's try that again while it's still going. Okay, clean it up. There we go. That one stayed on a little better. Okay, so now we have my little Squatch ghost. Has its little glitter. And then we just have to make sure we glue the pieces on, and then bam. Once I have that glue down, or the little magnets down, it's great. Reminder, if you put the magnets up at the top, I know it might be a little unbalanced. It may not stay perfectly elevated, but it's enough that you can pull it off and leave them like this, or you can put it back on. But what I was going to tell you was it will show the magnets if you do it like here and here from the back. So really think about that. Like, where will the magnets show when I take it off? I'd rather just kind of have it hidden right in the edges here. So now I'm going to add a little bit of glue. I can already see the other glue is pretty dry, actually. It's not really moving. And I cannot lift up this project's mask once I set it down, because it needs all night to dry. I'm just going to leave it to dry, and then I'll come back and work on some little details. So I just loaded up some of the super glue on the bottom of this brush because I know it'll dry overnight, just kind of wiping it off. I'm not going to be touching that. And then I'm going to place it as carefully as I can right where I want it, because once you touch down with super glue, it's really, really hard to come back from that. So yeah, where the eyes are, the pupils, I'll be adding some more black. I'll be going back and doing little details. Right now I have a camera basically right over me, and it's hard to lean over and see what I'm doing. And I'm doing weird angles with the paintbrush. So this is for you guys, okay? This is what I do. And thank you so much if you stopped by and you were interested in purchasing this. Just so you know, I am on the Pop Shop Live app. It is a free app for shopping or just hanging out and watching me live just like this. There's no pressure to shop, but I start my auctions at $5. Sometimes things go for 20 bucks. Sometimes they go for more. It really depends on the desire and the people that show up to those Pop Shop Lives. I'm planning one Pop Shop Live on this Wednesday. Again, it's the Pop Shop Live app is in the downloads for applications for your phone. Anyone can do it. If you don't like it, you just remove the app. But I've been on it for almost 2 years. It is the new way of shopping. It is, to me, better than any other shopping apps I've ever done. And it allows everybody a chance to purchase things and get limited edition items as well. So just a reminder, if you've not tried it yet, I highly suggest, and on Wednesday I'll have $3 off. The only way I won't do Wednesday is if something comes up, but that's where you'll find these little original paintings. I will only make one for these classes, these lessons. I switched to the blue, by the way, and I'm loving it. This like blue highlight looks so iridescent and cool. All of my information is all around the video. So again, worst thing you can do as a small business is hide from people. I promise you, I'm not hiding. I am making it completely obvious where you can find my art. Sign up to get rewards like this to build your own little DIY projects that I send to you and get these workshops with me. These run for $15 and they ship anywhere in the US. If you are out of the US and you want a chance to do things like this, there is an extra cost for shipping bigger items, but you can live in another country and you can get the postcard or the sticker of the month and you pay what everyone in the US pays. It just goes snail mail. The second it needs tracking, that's when the price goes up a bit. So this project does require shipping and a bubble mailer with tracking. So again, you can get all my information, critterosity.subly.me. It's basically a Patreon, but on a different website. I get more control over it here and can make it like my own website. And then over here, critterosityshop.com, I think it says. If it doesn't, sorry. And this one says Critterosity, which is my Instagram, obviously my YouTube channel. And you guys can rewatch this video as many times as you like. I will only answer questions regarding this project for those that purchase the actual project to make. So if you feel like, how are you doing that? What was this that you used? I won't answer you if you didn't pay for the whole workshop. But I do give a lot of sip and paint tutorials. There are other ones you can find on my YouTube, on my old Instagram reels. There's plenty of content to learn to draw with me, and you just have to seek it out. But thank you so much for joining us. If you're from the public and you landed on this, thank you so much for watching. For my DIY ornament peoples, thank you so much for supporting me another month to keep my business alive during a really difficult year. Let me tell you, I know we're all feeling it, and you're still here, you're still creating, and it means the world to me. So thank you so much. Until next time, you guys, this will be posted on my Pop Shop Live for auction, but also in my bio on Instagram, I list everywhere I'm going to be, where you can find me virtually or in person to shop live or shop in person. And in my Instagram stories, I usually show like what the project ended up looking like once I'm done with it. So wishing you guys all the best. Thank you so much.